Here we have the Behringer Wing. Not at all a controversial mixing console in the audio world, right? Guys, Jake from Churchfront here. We've got James Attaway from Attaway Audio. Check his YouTube channel out, link in the description. I asked James to come here for a collaboration, and that meant basically just a way for me to get a professional mix engineer to mix for us on a Sunday morning for free.
Where?
Right here.
Who?
This guy, Mr. Ray Ramon. I mean, Attaway, James Attaway. So we had you come and mix on this console, and this was the first time this morning. So you mixed it for rehearsal and 2 services. This is the first time you've mixed on a Behringer Wing. So I wanted to ask you, what do you love about the Wing? What do you hate about the Wing? Would you recommend this to churches?
Yeah.
Those 3 questions. So first, let's start with number 1. What do you love about the Wing?
The thing I love about the Wing is that the EQ is easy to get to, and the touch screen just makes it easy to reach for what you want to do, find it, and pull it down. Now, you still have to get on a knob to adjust the Q or the bandwidth for each EQ band, but that was super fast for me. When I'm thinking about mixing, I want to quickly identify what I want to do, and I want to do it without a whole lot of thinking. I'm a huge fan of analog consoles where one knob is one function. You don't have to hunt through a bunch of layers and menus to select this channel and go over to here. Analog is awesome for that because it's so fast. But this kind of reminded me of that and some much more expensive consoles that I've worked on in the past, in that the EQ is easy to get to, the touch screen works, it's sensitive enough, and it wasn't finicky at all for me this morning. So I was able to EQ quickly what I wanted to get to. And if I wanted to fine tune it, yeah, I've got knobs to reach for. But the EQ didn't make me think before I had to use it, and that was really helpful. The other thing that I really loved is a lot of times on consoles, you'll have your standard compressor module that's got just the normal parameters that you're used to seeing on any other digital console and on most analog units, especially the ones that are, they have threshold, ratio, attack, release, and makeup gain on the output. And when you use a different plug-in compressor on consoles, like over here, I'll take a look at the Red. The Red has those same parameters. And so if you understand what they're doing and don't need to look at an input and output graph, these give you all the same controls that you would have on any other compressor than you're used to. Now, if we go to something that's fun, like the 76 limiter amp, this is going to behave a little bit differently, but you have to relearn how it works, and it can get you some awesome sounds. And I absolutely love these types of compressors. But when you're training new volunteers at church, to get them to understand the gain structure of a compressor like this is a lot more challenging than something that's more standard, like the Red compressor or just the Wing compressor, right? If all else fails, you can go back to those standard ones that just work, and they're gonna do the job, and they're gonna do the job pretty well if you know how to dial in the parameters the right way. The Red compressor just seems to do it a little bit nicer, and I can't really describe it any more than that, other than it just feels good and does the job the way that I want it to.
Anything else you love about this console before we talk about what you hate?
I'm trying to think of what else I love. I like how the user-defined section over here lets you do what you want to. I'm a big fan of tap tempo, and to have that here and lit up and blinking for me so that I can quickly tap it in without thinking about it or finding a layer or selecting a certain effects unit, that's huge for me. So the flexibility over here of the tap tempo section, and even the flexibility of all the user layers, all the things that you can customize can be great. Now, when it comes to the things that I didn't love so much about the console, that flexibility can also get you into a jam. It's really challenging when you're trying to set up one setup that works for a bunch of different people. And one thing that I've found out is that churches have a lot of volunteers, and really to do the job well, you need a team to do it so that you can be a regular congregant on a Sunday and sit in the seats with your family and remember what it's like to be on the receiving end of somebody else mixing. So in order to do that, the customization, it takes a little bit of work to figure out what's gonna work well for you, but make it not so custom that it doesn't work or make sense for other people as well.
So you love the customization of it, but it also can be kind of a curse at the same time.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, because I've chatted with folks about what I love about this console is it almost feels like a DAW with a hardware control surface attached to it, and you can pretty much, I mean, like most digital mixers are, but for some reason there's even more freedom between hardware and software on this console, especially compared to X32 Wing or some of those other mixing consoles out there. And for our situation here, I love how there's 2 user faders pretty much on every bank over here. And right now it's myself or Adam kind of leading audio on a particular Sunday. And we kind of have our own ways of doing it. But it's nice we're able to like set it up according to our liking. But it is important we're trying to find a more unified way that everybody will be able to use.
Yeah, workflow and simplicity in training is the name of the game, because in churches, there's just turnover on volunteer teams, and that's the nature of volunteering. Sometimes you have to recruit and train a bunch of people, and it takes a lot of work to make something that's functional and simple and meets all your design requirements all at the same time. So the work that goes into that, even if you're a volunteer team leader, which many of you are, that work of customizing it the right way can be a daunting task and might not get done for the first several months or even year that you have the console.
Unless if you sign up for worship ministry school, and we will help you do it.
Yes.
Especially with this console. Adam's been, we've been using it for like 9 months, and we're got our show file pretty well dialed in. But you're right, there's a lot of the I/O of getting your audio routed. It's like, it's not super intuitive when you first look at it, but then once you do get used to this ecosystem, you guys have heard me talk about it a billion times on the channel. I love it. I think it's the future of where a lot of consoles will probably end up heading.
And you think about the X32, which is arguably the most popular console in churches in North America or even around the world. Mm-hmm. That console got a lot of flack for being inflexible in the way that it could route. But I think that's part of what made it popular with people with a lower level of training or didn't have as much experience in setting up audio consoles, is that you plug it into channel 1 and it goes into channel 1, or maybe channel 9, but they're at least in banks of 8.
Yeah.
And so I think that helped, and I feel like the Wing addressed a lot of those issues with making it super flexible, but that could trip you up if you're not used to having a well thought through plan where you plan it out in a spreadsheet, you get everything dialed in before you start loading it into the console, so that you don't trip yourself up or make things convoluted and confusing, because patching digitally just can get confusing, because it's not like you have one mic cable over here and another mic cable over here and you plug them together and they go like microphone to console. It can be a lot more complex than that.
Anything else you did not like about this console?
I did not experiment with this, but one thing that I love to do is I love to route my delay return back into my reverb. And with the amount of time that I had today, I didn't check to see if I could send this bus back into this bus. And I would have loved to do that, because wet delay just feels better than dry delay. But I still was able to get a good mix. My delays still felt good and musical, and I didn't have any problems.
Yeah, and you can do that. There's a lot of flexibility with the buses on this console. It's kind of, I think it's the first 8 buses here. So let's pretend we're talking about you want to send delay into this one. I think on this one you can, because if it's within the first 8. So yeah, see, I can send, we have this delay bus selected, and then I can go ahead and I can I can bring it back into the plate delay, right?
Yeah.
So that is possible, but it only does that for the first 8 buses, it appears, because then it just gives us matrices over here.
Buses to bus sends. That makes a lot of sense.
Even though we have a lot more than 8 buses. We have I actually don't even know how many total buses. We got like 16, looks like 16 stereo buses. So the first 8 seem to be more flexible with routing from a bus to a bus or a matrix.
Yeah, so that's one of the things you have to think about, especially if you're getting started. Maybe you made all your, set up your console to have all of your monitor sends on the first 8 buses that can be stereo, and then you find out with where your effects are, now they can't route back into one another. Then you have to redo it all, but it's helpful to have all those little details in mind, and planning it on paper or a spreadsheet. Nobody really plans on paper anymore.
Yeah.
But having that plan, planned out first before you start implementing it on the console is huge.
All right, so what's your final verdict, right? I mean, I know you've only had 6 hours or so on the console, but like, is this something that you want to? Would you want to mix on this more? Get to know this a little bit more? Are you like, no, this is just a horrible piece of gear. Churches shouldn't be using it. Like, where are you right now?
I think if you've got experience in setting stuff up and you know how to run AES digital routing, and maybe even if you already have some of the Behringer products in your ecosystem with your stage boxes, I feel like that's kind of a no-brainer to go to this console. Mm-hmm. If you really want something that's very plug and play and simple, this might not be the board for you, and knowing your own limitations is going to be wisdom in that situation. I'll have to say one other thing that I didn't love or didn't blow me away about the console is the pitch correction that's on board. Yeah. Now, I would rather have it than not have it, but I did hear some artifacts, along with the vibrato on the singers and the tracking of the different pitches. It wouldn't jump out to somebody that isn't tuning vocals a whole lot, but I did hear the results of it more than it being seamless and kind of in the background. That's one thing that I think they could upgrade, but I realize that that's a big challenge to take on with pitch correction built into a live console.
Yeah, and I bet we'll see more and more improvements with it over time. Just since this console's been out for a year and a half, almost 2 years now. I think it's about 2 years exactly when they first started shipping it. Lots of improvements with software updates so far. So.
Yeah, and I mean, once you buy it, the software updates come, and all of a sudden you've got more functionality. You've got an increased flexibility. They're often listening to customers and figuring out what it is that they want and implementing those in future firmware updates.
My 2 cents, now we're making a video about what we love and hate about this console. I haven't said this in other videos. I really love mostly everything. This up here, I bet, did you not use this at all?
I didn't really touch that.
Right? To me, this feels like a lot of wasted real estate. I still don't quite fully understand what this is, other than like, I think they wanted someone else to be able to work on something while you're here. Like, I don't know. If someone is using this and loves this in a way that I just am not aware of, let us know, because I wish we had like another bunch of faders here. Like, because now that I'm mixing a lot more regularly, I'm just like, I just don't want to be going through fader banks and stuff as little as possible, right? And I'd rather have more faders to control some different things. Yeah,
like I know on the larger Midas digital consoles, I can't remember the names at the moment, the Pro X, right, or the Pro 6, they have a whole separate section where over here, these several faders can be controlled by a totally separate section so that you can have an A engineer and a B engineer. Wow. And that could be helpful if you're running, say, either a festival or if you've got a bunch of speaking mics and a band that you're having to mix at the same time, and there's a lot of different people speaking while the band is playing. That could be super helpful to separate those responsibilities with the B section. But I don't think that when you select this here, the controls aren't any different here than here. Yeah. If those were separated somehow, that could be cool, or it could again be something that makes it more complex and trips people up.
Yep.
I think it's ultra creative how they emulated other analog gear and came up with their own names for it.
Yep.
That was clever.
Yep.
Good on you, Behringer.
Yep. So your verdict was if you're already in the Behringer ecosystem, it is kind of a no-brainer. Yeah. If you're looking to upgrade from an X32 or even an M32 to this board. Yeah, and I would strongly agree. If you're in my recommendation, if you're looking for a brand new console or brand new system, I would still consider this setup because I actually do like it, not just as an upgrade from an existing system or Behringer system. The SQ5 from Allen and Heath, that's probably my next favorite recommendation if you're building a system from scratch. Anything you would add to that?
The PreSonus Studio Live stuff is super helpful for training specifically. Mm-hmm. If you looked at our other video that we made about some of the mix changes that I made here, The ability to bypass individual bands on the EQ or have an A/B function between compressor settings can be really helpful for teaching and helping people understand what it is that they're doing with each EQ band. So the functionality there of the PreSonus definitely stands out to me.
That's all we have for you in this YouTube video. Definitely check out James' channel down below. I'll link that, as well as a free guide that you have.
Yeah, I have a guide called How to Lead Your Church Sound Team, and it walks you through how to define what winning is so that it's not ambiguous on what settings and what results are going to mean that you're doing your job well with sound at church. You can't make everybody happy, but if your leadership team has defined what winning is, you can aim for that mark and hit it on Sunday.
If you found this video helpful, especially if you're in the market to buy a new mixing console like the Wing, hit the like button, because we just shared a ton of insight for you on what we love, what we hate about the console. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any other videos to help you grow yourself and grow your worship ministry.